we have still time for discussion, so general discussion. So I think Jose's question was actually about linking to cost actions, but I don't know if it's the time or should we do it probably tomorrow after we see the other. So if anybody wants to contribute to that question, so what would be the trigger or indicator to trigger the decision makers to put on the monitoring, continuous monitoring, or apply MT or so? But you know, it's a very difficult question. Nobody is keen.
Nobody? So another last topic, another one? Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Maybe not on the specific topic you just mentioned, but something that keeps coming in my mind since now we have the whole speaking of the contributions for today. At the beginning of the day, it was Professor Frankel's approach, generally speaking, that seemed to me that it's more mathematically based, has more concrete, solid background on specific issues like resilience and reliability, etc. Variables which are quantified, assessed, and they give a final output through the application of certain equations. The indicators approach has a rather different perspective. It's more like benchmarking and making comparisons compared to standard or desired level. So I don't think that during the day it was clear how these two things could be combined, if they could be combined. And are we talking here for two different approaches, or are we talking for something that they have an interface? And if there is an interface on these two approaches, what would that be? And since we have here dominant colleagues that work on it, I think that not in half an hour, but at least in this half an hour, we could have some ideas on that. I think that it might be interesting. Thank you.
I think that's a really good question, but I also think that the answer is more or less obvious, because the intersection of the two cost actions which are present here is exactly what is needed. So everything which has been presented so far and everything which is done in 1406 can be considered as base work, necessary work in order to fill in the theoretical framework. So the methods and the approaches presented by Dan a little bit earlier today, they actually depend on the availability of relevant indicators. And to identify the relevant indicators necessitates very substantial engineering knowledge and experience, and this is what is being systematically collected in the 1406 action. This is fantastic. Now, what we're doing in the action 1402 is to take basis in available relevant indicators and then just to twist them a little bit to quantify the information they contain in a way that we can use them for decision support in the mathematical framework. So everything goes up into let's say a higher unity, a higher context. It's very beautiful.
Let me comment on that one. Actually, I like what you said. Apart from the mere fact that the indicators
that you would like to have and you're going to obtain it, use them in fixing it in order to figure out what is the value of these indicators. And that's your job, right? It'll be kind of interesting to know how reliable are our inspections method and our non-destructive testing method, because without reliability of these methods itself, outcome, false positives, false negatives, right positives, and negatives, it's very hard to figure out whether we should answer the question, whether we should do NDTs or some sophisticated methods. Let me go to the groundwork. If you have a culvert which costs 10,000 euros and you apply the method which costs in itself 15,000 euros, you're doing something wrong, because you can just replace it without any further thinking. So this is also, when you talk about information, to what extent, to what object, and to what mean, to what end.
Yeah. This is exactly what we are able to quantify.
But this is exactly what we are quantifying in 1402. This is the main purpose of 1402, to be able to pull out the information from the key performance indicators in a way that we take into account, let's say, the relevance of the indicator for modeling or predicting the interesting performances of the structures, and then the uncertainty associated with that, including the uncertainty of whatever NDT or other observation strategy which is being used. And that be anything from visual to any degree of detailed level of NDT and even destructive testing, right? So this is what can be quantified, and I think that the actions will come to an end at some point in time. It's not too far away in the future, and already now both actions are considering how does life go on after the end of the actions. And if we would like to consider an argument for a relevant extension of activities within the actions, then maybe perhaps this particular issue is one to address, namely the more systematic joint consideration of which are the for the bridges, which are the really relevant indicators, and then using the methods developed within 1402 on the set of most relevant indicators identified in 1406 to quantify the value of those jointly. So that might be an interesting extension and very relevant one, the way I see it.
Okay, and with these wise words and also the words that are joining us our two actions, if there is no other further questions. Oh, there's a Helmut Franson which would like to say something. Okay.
Helmut Wenzel. I'm working in bridge management for 40 years in Europe and the past years in America. And what I see is that if you have a database like NBI, where all the bridges are in there, you have data. And with data, you can apply all your methods. So what we are lacking in Europe is, we are not a European Union, we are a Europe of regions. We have maybe 250 different bridge management systems. So to harmonize that, this cannot be done in a cost action. It has to be done in a big research project. There's a lot of research also left for that. So we have to go in this direction. Our industry is also moving towards GIS-based systems and towards BIM implementation. And if we are able to convince the European Commission that this would be also cost saving on a regional level, this could be a very good project. We should try to promote this. It's very difficult, but we have to do that. And it takes 4 years anyway to get it, and after the actions, we could then continue
agree, maybe only one comment to disregard. Americans also cook with water, right? So they also have database maybe more homogenized than we have. I'm talking about BRM or NDI, but there's still different states in the United States that use different mineral systems. I mean, there's idle assets in New York State, there are other systems which are not compatible. And so this is also things that we should regard. Maybe some diversity is not that bad.
Yeah, we had in the last workshop someone from US, Bruce, and he showed that in fact between the states there is a huge dispersion as well in unit. But the problem is that the information is open, and for us the information is not open, which does not allow us to make comparisons.
Only NDI is open, others are not. BRM.
Okay, but you have NDA. I would only like to make two comments. The first one concerns the governance decision that was discussed previously, considering interest rates, etc. I think this is very important because, according to the presentation from Gil, if you have two different strategies from two different countries, at the governance level, you can have also different impacts on the quality control, and this is some issue that should not be forgotten. And the other comment is concerning the presentation from Nicola. I think it's very important. We had two interesting presentations in our previous workshops about hazards, one from Akiyama and one other from Matthias. It was dedicated to earthquake, but I think it's important to contact what is also being done in other countries, not only in Europe, to see what is being considered in terms of indicators for hazards situations.
Dan, you would like to say something?
No, just a little bit to comment. I think these two actions, I was not familiar so much with working on two, but I think are well integrated, and I'm happy to see both representatives here and having this type of workshop. In the United States, we have a particular situation because we manage 600,000 bridges, and we have this bridge inventory and NDI and so on, and we have mostly is a program that is applied to most of the states, and Professor Kazim is in contact all the time with Paul Thompson and others in developing this. Also, as I mentioned 8 years ago, we began this program for long-term bridge performance program, and this is a continuous thing, integrating more than these two parts, not only health monitoring and this quality performance, but just also bridge testing and a lot of other indicators. Ultimately, you have to make decisions, no? And one of the indicators that is important is risk. I didn't see any indicator here in your performance indicators that mention risk. Perhaps this, but I'm not sure. So every politician will make a decision, say you want to make a decision in front of risk and minimizing the risk and so on. So is risk considered in these groups or not? So is decision making the final process? We are looking at decision making processes, or is just collecting some data and commenting about the data? So I don't know exactly if the ultimate thing is a risk or is a decision making process. And I see a lot of quality stuff and less quantity of performance indicators. So perhaps you don't have to respond now. I will attend both days, so I know much better. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you for your comment. I'm going now to adjourn this session. It's time, it's 12:10, and we should proceed to a lunch. Anna, may I give you the...
I would just like to invite you all together here in front of the first row, so our photograph can make our joint photo before the lunch. Thank you.
It's not for the ID, it's not